not in my normal set. For those of you watching, listening, Miss Lisa Bilyeu,
Hello.
actually back for the second time.
Yeah.
We connected last summer. I can't believe it's already been almost a
I
year.
can't believe it.
And I was on East Coast, you were on West Coast, and we had the amazing virtual interview. And I told you, I said, hey, I'm coming out to LA soon. We're moving in a few months. I would love to follow up and just, of course, be in your presence, learn from you guys. If nothing else, definitely schedule a follow-up interview. And now here we are, actually the second time back in your house.
And completely respect. You said you were going to do something and you did it.
Yeah.
And that's super important.
And I'm sure we're all busy and we all have different things we want to do and need to do. And sometimes I'm sure we're being nice, but I've come to realize, I think, in this field, people don't really say, hey, yeah, follow up with me, or hey, let me know when you get to, here, if they don't really mean it. So maybe we're being nice. Either way, thank you.
I mean, here's the thing. Yes, of course I was being nice, but I was being nice because I sincerely meant it. And that's one thing. Just growing up as becoming an adult is I'm not going to say something unless I mean it.
Yeah.
And I same with the word I love you. I get some friends that say I love you, and I'm like, I'm not sure if I love you yet, and so I don't say it back.
Yeah. I really, really love the time we spend together.
Yeah, I like you too. That's terrible.
That's the worst thing you want to hear, your significant other is oh, thanks.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But then sometimes there is some power into just accepting the compliment. And I'm trying to really work on that as well. Yeah, just say thank you. Because I'm just like, oh, this old thing, or oh, well, God, there's always an excuse or a reason. Like if someone gives you a compliment, it's like, oh, but I looked terrible yesterday, or
Stemming off of your recent TEDx talk, you made this point about the word just.
Yeah.
And you made this comment about how you were somehow, I think you were in a checkout line or something, and this woman asked what you do, and you told her, and then you followed up, what do you do? And she goes, I'm just a mom. Yeah. So it's actually kind of the theme of what I wanted to pick up with you on, was just this perspective aspect.
Yeah.
And my wife and I, May said to tell Lisa we watched a video of her TED. It's so nice. She's at home studying. She just finished her semester, but she's kind of trying to play catch up. But your whole concept of perspective rings so true, I think, for health, fitness, wellness, business, entrepreneurship, anything that anyone in my audience is here to kind of learn about. Really, truly, I believe the most that where the mind goes, the body will follow. And perspective is huge.
Well, in fact, can you just say the study that we were just talking about before?
Speaking of the mind and the body.
This is how powerful the mind is.
We were talking about some nutrition changes maybe you've been making in your diet over the years, and how the body's maybe responding. And this always reminds me of a study I read, I think it was in Perfect Health, Deepak Chopra's Perfect Health. I might be butchering the title, but it was definitely one of his patients. And it was a multiple personality study where she was bipolar or something. And one of them was deathly allergic to orange juice. I'm pretty sure it was orange juice. And one personality, she could be drinking it totally fine. The next, anaphylactic shock, have to be rushed to the ER, hives head to toe. And so the whole psychosomatic aspect, the whole concept of, well, is my body really resisting this thing that's coming into my body, or whether it's food, a thought, or is it my mind? Does my mind have total control? And what my mind decides is true, right, wrong, good, bad, false, the truth or not, then the physiological manifestation comes out.
Because we spoke about exactly. We spoke about that person who basically got into a car accident, and the wife went to visit him in hospital. He lost his memory, and she brought him his favorite food, and he tasted it, and he basically spat it out. He was like, "This is disgusting." And then some foods that he used to hate, he started to eat, saying this is amazing. And so we were talking about how our taste buds are pretty much built upon from childhood, right? So it's we have certain foods, either it makes us feel a certain way, and it makes us feel warm and fuzzy inside. So even though the taste may not be amazing, we still grow to love it when we're in our 30s and 40s.
It's acquired taste.
Acquired taste, right? Exactly. But I think it's because we have emotions attached to those.
Absolutely.
Same with I absolutely hated olives until I had health issues, and they're like, you need to get more fat in your diet. Now I love olives, because I force fed them to.
Which, like I said earlier, the Greek heritage in her just has to be just what? Oh, how do you hate olives?
My entire family wanted to disown me.
Oh, no.
So sorry, I kind of threw out that perspective.
No, but absolutely. What I was saying, where the mind goes, the body will follow. Sometimes it's a physiological change, like an allergic reaction or something like that. But your whole talk that you just couple weeks ago, kind of came off stage, was perspective.
Yeah.
And that word just. And so many times when people ask, well, what do you do? Or, how is your day? Or it's a way to kind of just stay safe.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that point that you made. So could you talk to us more about perspective and the power in that one little word of just when defining your perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for watching it, by the way.
Of course.
It was my first public talk, so I was so
Really?
I've
No
never
way.
spoken in public ever before.
How? How is that possible?
The funny thing, I was like, oh my God, you're going to be great. And I'm like, to me, it's like asking a culinary chef to be the best baker. It's like, it's a different,
Okay.
Sure,
It's
I
like
use
same,
an oven,
but different.
but it's right.
Yeah.
It's such a different skill.
Okay.
So I'm very comfortable sitting here with you with cameras on. It's just me and you in the room.
Mm-hmm.
Very comfortable. But the second I'm up on stage, everyone's staring. It was something that, people fear that more than they do death. So
what was the crowd size? Do you remember?
Maybe 100.
Okay.
So it wasn't big at all.
It's about 98 more people here.
Yeah, right, exactly. But I was like, this scares me so much, and
Wow.
I had taught myself before I even got asked to be on, that when I really fear something, that my mind will try and convince me not to do it. So what are the strategies I'm going to implement so that I don't let fear rule my life? And the thing is to lean into it immediately without thinking. So I got this phone call, and one of my guys from my team came up to me, he's like, Lisa, they want you to do a TEDx, will you do it? And I went, yes. And I didn't even think about
That
it
fast.
that fast.
Wow, good. Yeah, I love that.
Since then, for 3 months, I was like shitting myself and like super scared. But I had committed to it,
Yeah.
so it forced me. I told myself, okay, everyone's like, this is the thing that most people are fearful of, but I don't have to be. Anyway, so that was kind of a background, and I really was scared, and I went on stage and I did a lot of mindset things. I did the power pose, I spoke to great people, so I researched and prepared as much as I possibly could, because if I went on stage and froze, I could be like, it's okay, Lisa, because you did it. You got on stage, you didn't back out, you did everything you possibly could to perform at a high level, and you froze. It is what it is, but I went prepared. So I kind of coached myself into it.
Well, I didn't see any freezing, at least from the camera angles that I saw.
Thank
I didn't see any freezing.
I thankfully didn't. But yeah, I really wanted to talk about something that was very meaningful to me, and I would go through my story, and I was a housewife for 8 years, and then started into business, and I've evolved so much that I kind of just started to dissect it, and dissect the evolution, and dissect how did I even slip into being a housewife when I never wanted it. I had big dreams of being a movie director, and yet I still found myself for 8 years in that role. And so when I really pulled apart my life, I just thought it was something that I had been given, and that turned me to perspective. So okay, my perspective was that being a female Greek, it meant that I was going to get married and have kids. So even if I wanted to be in movies, no matter what career I wanted, that was kind of the...
You wanted to be a filmmaker.
I wanted to be a filmmaker, yeah.
Not only did you want to be a filmmaker, you had this amazing aspiration that I want to be the first female award-winning filmmaker.
For
shooting
directing,
for the Academy.
You've done your research, Steve. Very
I'm a
impressive.
TEDx nerd.
But it was, I had a big dream, and I wanted to go to film school, and my dad kept pushing back, and eventually he turned around and he said, you know what, it actually doesn't matter, go to film school, because you'll end up being a housewife anyway. And when I tell that story, people are like, oh my God, that's horrible. Like, can your father say that? But it goes back to perspective.
That was his norm.
That was his norm. So if you look at where he grew up, he was from a tiny village in the mountains of Cyprus. There wasn't even a school in the village. So if you wanted to get an education, kids had to be sent away to a whole different village, not live with their parents. And so my dad, at the age of 11, was one of the selected to go and study. Now,
can we even pause right there real quick? Just the whole concept of, and I understand different parts of the world, different cultures, I respect that, but to be chosen to go get an education, that blows my mind.
And it was based on like the fact that he was one of the eldest. So they looked at the kids in the village and were like, which ones are the driven ones, and which are the oldest ones that can go? Because really, it's you send the eldest out, and then they're going to provide for the rest of the family.
Right, kind of go teach the top of the crop, and then hopefully they come back and
they
share
work,
the wealth.
or exactly, or they go to work and then they give their family the money that they've got. So my dad was the firstborn, so they sent him away. Now he saw his sister had an arranged marriage. His mum not only had an arranged marriage, but she didn't even ever go to school. So she was self-taught. She basically taught herself how to read by reading the Bible. And so they definitely didn't send women to go and study. So think about my dad is brought up in this world. His sister's arranged marriage. His mum was arranged. No women ever got sent for an education because contraception wasn't accessible. So the second a woman got married, she had babies. So it was like, well, of course women don't get an education. So even though my dad for 50 years had gone through like the first world and moved to England, and he still had that mentality. So understanding his perspective, understanding why he thought that and why he projected it onto me, I don't take offense to that. That's only natural. But then I as that next step, interpreted it, felt the pressure of, well, you're a Greek woman, well, okay, well, you do have kids, because my entire family, no one ever got married and didn't have children. So the fact that I wasn't going to have kids didn't even dawn on me. And that's the thing. It didn't dawn on me that I had a choice.
So all of these big, grandiose things in life, adulting, were just, you didn't even have a choice.
It was kind of like a dream that I was like, no, it's possible. But I never acted on it. I think because I was like, well, the reality is I'm going to have kids. So it's that, it's the subconscious mind talking to you. It's all the things that you've learned in your childhood that you just bring to the table that you think of as fact. And so even now as I'm talking, everything I'm saying I believe is fact. And in a year, I'll look back and say, wow, your perspective was different then, because I've learned a new piece of the puzzle. And so when I went from being a housewife to becoming an entrepreneur, the piece of the puzzle that I learned was, it was a choice. My perspective was a choice.
And that perspective turns into your truth that you need or believe to be true at the time, which is what I love about people. The more and more people I've met in this space, like yourself and your husband and all the amazing work that you all put out, is that it's never like, here's the truth.
Right.
It's here's what I know, we know, what our community has discovered or believed to be true or worked through. And then, like you said, come back in a year and maybe most of that's the same. Maybe it's completely changed. It's truth is a continuum.
I like that. That's true. Because it's always evolving. And going to even health, right? Look at how everybody back in the 80s, like everyone thought fat was, fat would make you fat, right? And then you go into the 90s, and so each decade there's
nutrition
a new fad.
Is such a good example.
Yes.
Always changes.
Always changing, because I think it's a massive reflection of science, and science is evolving. We're developing new technologies that are now able to assess and monitor certain things of our bodies that they weren't last year. So everything that we thought, like, they were saying Alzheimer's, is developed from, plaque on the brain, but now they're showing that the plaque on the brain is actually the result of it, not the cause. So, okay, so what is the cause? And now it's starting to make us think in a different way. We still can't fully diagnose Alzheimer's while people are living. It's just the displays that they're having, right? So it's like, oh, you're being forgetful. Do you have Alzheimer's? It's not like a scan that you can do and look for a broken bone.
It's not like you're fasting glucose that you can get on an annual physical.
Right.
It's these little things. Are you familiar with Max Lugavere?
Yes, love
Cheese
him.
Foods.
Yeah.
He's another recent TEDx talk that I watched, and he's been on the show as well, and he's now living in LA full time. We're going to get him back here soon.
Okay.
His whole talk, his whole TEDx talk was all about his hypothesis that, of course, God bless her soul, she recently passed, his mom, from Alzheimer's. And that was one of the big catalysts for why he wrote that book. And his whole premise for the talk was nutrition. Can nutrition be the key indicator for Alzheimer's, for these kind of degenerative brain disorders? And short answer, I would agree. I think a lot of chronic illnesses and ailments, and certainly diseases, if we trace it all the way back, I'm not saying there's one thing where you ate or didn't eat those olives. If you did or did not eat those olives, but kind of a compounding effect, just like the truth we're talking about.
Exactly.
We act on, and we think, and we eat, and we move, and we love, and we talk, and we feel for what we know to be true at this moment, and hopefully we can just keep an open mind along the process. And
that's the key, right? The open mind, because when someone comes in and talks to you and says the complete opposite of what you believe, instinct is to fight back or argue back or defend back or to be like, oh God, yeah, right, sure. But what does that do? That just keeps us where we are.
Puts up a wall, builds friction.
Exactly. So I would love to live in a world where we can debate, talk about health, talk about mindset, talk about religion, talk about politics in an open way, so that we're willing to change our opinions. Because like, I don't want to be dogmatic. If what I'm saying right now is wrong, great, then I can learn from it. You know, and as you know, my whole health issue, like I've evolved so much in trying to figure out my health problems. I used to like, honestly, if I can be completely transparent, I used to make fun of woo-woo people. Like,
me too. You know, in small ways, for sure.
I used to be like, oh my god, that's so woo-woo. What do you mean? Like, you know, I could stick pins in you. What are you talking about? And now, like, I'm the acupuncture queen. I'm like, you know, because
you're going to one after this interview.
I am, exactly. But it was because I had tried everything that my mind believed it was, and everything that traditional doctors told me, and I still wasn't getting better. In fact, I was getting worse. And so that's when I'm like, all right, Lisa, you keep pushing back on things and saying like, oh, well, that doesn't work. But right now, your belief system isn't allowing anything to work.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, what's the worst that can happen? You try and it doesn't work. Okay, great. Well, nothing's changed.
Yeah.
So I was like, I just flipped a switch. And I literally was like, all right, bring on the woo-woo. So now I'm like the biggest advocate for just trying everything. Because it may not work. But like, as you said at the beginning, the mind is so powerful that I want to believe everything I do is going to work. So even if I'm like, okay, well, once upon a time I didn't believe in it, I need to go into it saying, this is going to work.
Yeah. And everything you just said, I hope the person watching, listening, just take what Lisa just said and apply it to any or every problem, or just what you think is a problem. People just unnecessarily, I believe, and I'm definitely have been guilty of this, and probably in ways still am, of just accepting like, oh, I have diabetes, or I'm pre-diabetic, or I'm overweight, or I'm underweight, or I'm poor, or I'm broke, or I'm whatever, and we just unnecessarily accept that as the truth. And any and every of those things, 99%, you know, God forbid, terminal illness or like anything like that, we pretty much have the power to change for the better, or I would say even just alter in one way, shape, or form. And it all is because we just have to decide.
Exactly. And going back to perspectives, I don't think I actually finished answering your question, is that we've been told something our whole lives. You're not this.
Yep.
You're not a runner, you're not a podcaster, what do you mean? You're going to speak in public, right? You get maybe told this as you grow up.
You're not going to go to school, you're a housewife.
Right. And you start to believe it, you start to embody it, and here's the thing, you don't, at least for me, I didn't realize I was embodying it. Now here's the other side to things. I still really want to be a nurturing, traditional, in essence, Greek wife to Tom, in the sense of like, I want to provide like all his dinners and all his meals, but the truth is now I can't. So I had to like actually decide, okay, well, you no longer, like, you see yourself now as being in the business arena, but you still really want to be a very good wife to your husband. You still want to make dinner for him and set out his clothes. Like, that makes me feel good. So now what do? And so I just sat down with him, and we had to figure out, okay, well, what is my true passion? And it was business. And so I ended up saying, okay, I have to let go of making you dinner every night, but on the weekends I'm going to make you, you know, your favorite meal. And so I figured out a way to kind of get what I wanted, even as I was evolving.
Should come over on a weekend.
I know, exactly.
Get some good meal.
And the word "just" to kind of like, I guess, tie that up, was I noticed that I used to say it, and I stopped saying it. And I started to analyze why that was and what that transition was for me. And it was because I felt like I was being judged if I said that I was a housewife. I was judging myself. So I wanted to kind of let people know, like, look, I don't think, and I want your listeners to really hear what I'm saying, because I'm not putting down housewives. Because if that is what you want, and that is what you choose, it is amazing.
Like that woman you met.
Like that.
You said that she went on to talk about how, like, wow, like she loves being a mom. She loves this caring, nurturing role, and so there's no need for just.
Right, exactly.
If that's what you're passionate about.
Exactly. Yeah. Thank you. So because I was in line with her, and I said, "Hey, what do you do?" She goes, "I'm just a mother," and that word really hit me, because I remember when I used to use that. So I'm thinking, this poor woman, she clearly doesn't love what she does. And so I start asking her questions like, oh, do you have kids? And she's like telling me about her kids and that she homeschools it. And as she's telling me the story, she's lit up.
Yeah.
Like, she's so excited. She's so happy. And I was like, that's interesting.
You can't hide passion.
Yeah, you can't hide passion.
You can't hide passion.
So I was like, that's interesting that she used the word just then, because she clearly loves what she does. And I was using the word just in my life as a way of saying, I realized that this isn't what, like I was kind of trying to justify it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Justify. Put it there. And so I realized that she wasn't using it for that. And I came to the conclusion she was using it because I had just told her I was in business, and I think she thought I was going to judge her. Mm-hmm. And when I was like, oh my God, that's amazing, you homeschool? Like, how do you homeschool? What do you do? And because I sincerely am impressed by that.
Absolutely. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot. I mean, God, I couldn't imagine having to teach algebra.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just say that, like, forget it.
Balance an equation that's long gone.
Yeah, so the incredible ability to do that is so mind-blowing to me. Like, it's so, like, I freaking praise that. And so I was like excited as she was telling me and I'm asking her questions, and that's when I noticed her shift. And I thought it's interesting because if she had then reintroduced herself to me, would she have said, I'm just a housewife again? Or would she have changed her sentence? Mm-hmm. And again, it goes back to, I think she perceived me to be the type of person that was going to judge her.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it came down to, like, we've all just got to we've all got to let go of trying to live the life for someone else. Mm-hmm. Ask ourselves, what do we actually want? And that was what it came down to. Like, do I actually want to be a housewife and a mother? Mm-hmm. Or do I actually want to be in business? And I was like, I really want to be in business. Yeah. And that is so powerful when we just clear out all the noise, clear out all the judgment from other people, clear out all the perspectives that we have of ourselves and other people put on us, and just say, what is it that we really want?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so many things in there. My mind was like, pay attention, Lisa.
I have
like 5 different points of like this. Again, going back to your TED Talk, kind of keeping pertinence to some current topics here. You heard that from your father. It's like, what does it matter? You're just going to be a housewife anyway. Yeah. And then I'll make sure I have to link this down below. Not to I'm basically giving away everybody the whole insight of the TED Talk. But on your wedding day, I remember that you were so stoked for your grandfather to come in. Yeah. You're like, all right, I'm going to get like the family secret, how to be a, good wife, or like the secret to long, loving marriage. And I'll get to what was told in a second. And when I heard this, it really struck a chord for me, not so much in like the intimate personal relationship world, but like the business relationship world. When there was a distinct moment where I was sitting across the table from my former employer, the CEO. In fact, the new CEO. There was like this coup. Like, went in one day, old guy's gone, new guy's in. Okay. And which is always like what's going on. Yeah. But then also I got to talk with this guy, and it was like very, I respected him very much. But then he said something, and he was like, we're talking more. I was in his office every week, and so like, he doesn't just do that with everybody. And I was really trying to like step up because I really loved my job, and I wanted to grow, and I wanted to climb the corporate ladder. So I thought, and he said something to me. He goes, Chase, I'm paraphrasing, but I really, love what you're doing. I see strong potential, and I have some ideas in your department, in this department, and I really think, like 20 years or so, I think it could be you on the side of the table. And in one hand, I would say that's a compliment. I, took it for what it's worth. I mean, he has worked decades and decades to get where he is. But I was just like, I feel like I can do more. I feel like there's this standard being set for me by your old perspective and what you know to be true in the old world of business and the things that I was delivering and these ideas and projects and beta testings. I was like, no, like there's so much room for growth right here, right now. Let's say, 3 to 5 years, there's a lot of room to grow. I'm not trying to just like bide my time so maybe one day in 20 years I can be what you think I should be. Mm-hmm. And how I'm going to try to tie this together is, I'm wondering, when your grandfather told you, just obey your husband, that just had to just completely, I'm sure, shatter your whole perspective of your future, right? In the same way that what the CEO told me shattered my perspective of the future. And in that second, I decided I'm writing my own future. I'm gonna run with it. I'm gonna fail. I'm gonna succeed. Either way, I'm gonna know. I'm not gonna wait 20 years. That moment with your grandfather. Since then, like in business, maybe especially, have you ever had a moment where someone said something and you're just like, no, or their perspective just flat out put up a wall in front of you, good, bad, ugly, or otherwise, and you're just like, no, like that's not my truth. I'm not gonna run with that.
So well, initially with my grandfather, when he'd been married for like 50 years, and he calls me in,
which is amazing.
It's amazing, yeah. And he calls me. Well, let's go back then. The divorce didn't exist.
Right.
He was like, so whether he's had a happy marriage for 50 years is a very different question.
He has been married.
Yeah, he has been married for 50 years. And he called me in, and he was like, look, I've been married. I want to make sure that you have a secure, safe life. And so the piece of advice that I'm going to give you is obey your husband. And when he said it, in the moment I was like, that's crazy. What do you mean obey my husband? You're nuts. And
obey is a strong word.
It is a very strong word. And especially someone like me who sees themselves as being super independent, it was like, you're literally telling me I'm about to go to prison. Like, that is what I heard. Like, my marriage is about to be a prison. Now, because he's old school, I kind of chuckled, like...
Took with a grain of salt, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. All right, grandfather. So then... we're getting married, and I have a photo. I'm actually going to use this in my next talk.
Oh, nice.
Of Tom during the wedding. The priest, you have to repeat what the priest says, and he says, "I promise to love and obey my husband," and I have to repeat it. And the second I'm standing there with this like really weird smirk on my face, and Tom's looking at me, and the photo was taken because he knew because I went to him and I'm like, can you believe my grandfather said I had to obey you? And he started joking. He's like, yeah, the man knows what he's talking about. I know what we're joking about. Yeah. But the thing that going back to like actually the business advice is that sometimes it's even like scarier to think that it just slowly penetrated me, right? And it wasn't that I was obeying my husband. We've never had that relationship, and he's never wanted it. I've never wanted it. But it is a piece of, it's kind of like a sculpture, right? Where you get just a clunk of clay, and you're like scraping away at it. For my grandfather to say that, it wasn't like that made the piece of who I was. I didn't believe that I was ever going to obey my husband, but it was a one swipe at the piece of clay that made me who I was, that allowed me to become that housewife that I ended up. So so that's even scarier though, because when you don't see it coming, like sometimes when you see it coming, you're like, that I'm never going to do that, forget it, and you dismiss it and you move on. But even though I kind of chuckled at it, looking back, it was those little moments.
So many ways, I'm sure, in life we don't realize that someone else is molding us.
Exactly, and the same with business.
Our people, our environment, absolutely.
Yeah, people are going to give you advice, right? Because maybe it worked for them. Yeah. So let's say, we're talking about business and you say something and it's something I've already been through and I give you advice. Okay, well, you may perceive that as truth because, well, Lisa's done it, she said it worked, so it must work. So you take it on as now your belief system, but you don't know if it works for you.
Yeah.
But you've already adopted it. It's like going back to diet. People do it all the time. People ask me a lot, like, what do I eat? How do I work out? And I'm so reluctant to tell them because I've had so...
Good for you, by the way.
Oh,
because there are so many people, especially in this world now, where like just quick to like, here's what I...
That's not me. So I just thought like, I'm either going to do what is me or I'm not going to do it. Because my goal, like, while, yes, I want to be huge. I want to have a massive following. Absolutely. I understand that it helps my business.
Sure.
So, of course, it's a reflection of how many people I'm impacting.
Exactly.
And that's really what I've dedicated my life to.
Literally your business.
Exactly.
Impact everything.
Yeah. So numbers do matter, but it also has to start from that. What am I trying to achieve? Who am I? And when I've only got a limited amount of time, all of us humans have limited amount of time on this earth.
The same amount of time in the day, but limited time on earth.
Yeah. So what are you going to do? And so for me, it was, well, I don't want to post on Instagram if I'm not able to express how I really feel. Yeah. And so I said, whether this holds me back or not, it is what it is. And so I'm going to keep going. And I've still write my long things, and now it's become more of a thing, and more people are writing really long messages. But I recognize that that's probably held me back, and that's I have to ask that question. I can't be blindsided.
It's a fair question.
Yeah, you have to. And that's one thing I do a lot as well. It's like if people ask me or give me business advice, I really say like, okay, does this help my business? And if the answer is yes, am I willing to do it? Yeah. Because I have to go in with my eyes open, knowing that like, all right, I held myself back, but that's okay.
And I would argue that it's probably because you've done a lot of work on the why. And another big component of your recent talk was the why. And I think whether you're here to change your eating habits, improve your physical activity, start a business, grow a business, whatever, I'm sure you get way more questions than I do. But anytime I talk with someone or someone on our team talks with someone, it's it's the surface level stuff that we can get to. Like, all right, we can add a workout here, we can improve some eating habits there, but why? Why do you want to make this change? Why do you want to grow? Why do you want to lose the weight? Why do you want to do anything in life?
So how guys, we're still filming.
I might keep that in.
Keep that in. The hell, why not? This is the real me. I just stopped the interview and shouted at him.
Shut up.
Yeah, we got this shit done. Can't do a podcast when people are talking in the other room. I've got to respect you and your content.
Thank you. That was amazing. I was just going to finally ask, what is your why? And more importantly, or maybe some more curious listener, how did you figure it out? I think it's a very maybe frivolous thing thrown out. Oh, start with why, or I want to become passionate. How do I find my passion? Well, you just got to figure out why you want to do anything. Well, there's a process to that, and I believe the process starts first looking inward to really figure out, looking at all these nature versus nurture, our upbringings and environments, all the things that you've been talking about of other people's perspectives, and you should do this, you shouldn't do that, and then like that can cause a whole conundrum when you start looking inside. What was the process like for you? How did you look inward? How did you begin to develop your why, and how would you kind of describe it nowadays?
Yeah, my why actually came after we were successful at Quest.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Although is that true? So here's really what happened. When I was a housewife and my husband came home one day and said, hey, do you mind just helping ship some bars? We want to start this new company. It's this protein bar company.
Help ship some bars. Famous last words.
Yeah, famous last word.
Now it's all the bars.
Yeah, exactly. It was like just a couple from our living room floor. And that's how it started. I was weighing ingredients. We rented a rental kitchen by the hour. So all the wives were just measuring ingredients from the home. My husband and his business partners had their day jobs. And then at night, we would all get the ingredients, we'd go to the rental kitchen with our rolling pins and knives, and we would hand make Quest bars. Wow. We would then take it home, and if we got an order, I would ship it from my living room floor in between hanging out and doing my housewife duties.
Like, got a Shopify alert, let me go run to the printer.
Yeah, well, this is a long time ago, there was no Shopify alert.
Oh, wow.
It was like an old computer that you had to log in, and you basically are there any... Then you have to wait for it to process. And
Oh goodness,
so this was kind of old school. And so I kind of started there. And so my why really was like, I'm helping my husband. But it wasn't like, I didn't have a strong why of like, okay, I've got to help my husband. It was like, I just went through the motions. And I think that this is one thing that people don't talk enough about, is what happens when you're just going through the motions. Because...
Yes, this is so timely for so many things. Please continue.
Oh, go. Why is this timely?
So each year through our coaching practice, we run through a mentorship, and it is the entire year. Not everybody makes it through, but in terms of like their level of commitment throughout. But what we talked about this last week was just really look at, where am I just going through the motions? Because even when you're working with a coach or a mentor, even doing the self work. Yes, it's very good to just develop the infrastructure first. Like, all right, I'm going to block out X amount of time to journal or to podcast or to batch content or to roll dough in your case, So that in and of itself is good. But when does that just become, I'm going through the motions? And when does that become, I think I'm slowly moving forward in the right direction, but I'm staying in this safe bubble now because I've deemed it good, or I've deemed it moving in the right direction. Where am I, maybe not getting uncomfortable, So getting stuck in the monotony of it, is exactly what we talked about with this group, because I was kind of seeing some, not everyone, but a few people where like when we do our check-ins, like, yeah, you're telling me the same thing. You're telling me the same successes, which is all well and good, but like if you're successful week in, week out, month in, month out in the same category, they're not growing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've got comfortable
Yeah.
in that area, 100%. And because of that, I've learned I do really deep assessment now on myself. I do it probably every month, absolutely every quarter. So we set company goals, and we make sure that me and Tom are both on the same page, and then we set that goal so we know what we're moving towards, and then we break it down into quarterlies, and then what are those quarterly goals. So my why, I'm always very clear on every quarter on why I'm doing something, because I know what that final goal is. But here's the thing, we evolve so much. And over time, from 1 week to the next, I may have learned something that is now really ingrained in me, and now it starts a passion or a desire of something else. And
it makes you question something you were doing before.
Exactly, 100%. And I've taught myself to be open to those things. Because I used to get panicked, like, oh my God, no, but I'm on this path and you can't stray. And, you know, but sometimes it's like, no, to achieve what you need to achieve, you have to stray.
Yes. And I tell the same group all the time. We're working towards a very, very specific goal by Q3 in October, and then we kind of like just want to be able to maintain that success. But I told them from the beginning, and I follow up every time I have our one-on-ones, if that doesn't, like the goal should stay the same, right? But like the ways that you're getting there, if that doesn't evolve, that's a red flag.
Yeah, right, exactly. Because if you're like, but I set the plan, and you know, in January, and it's like, all right, but it's November, and you've changed as a human, you've hopefully learned stuff, and so maybe your path does change.
And your passion might even change.
And your passion might change 100%. And that's so important, because people think like they're going to find their passion. You don't find it, you have to discover
Develop
it. Develop it, exactly. And same with your goal, or same with the path that you're taking. But kind of going back to my why, I really did, my why really was like, okay, my husband asked me, so I'm a good housewife, and so I want to make sure that...
Box check.
Exactly, like I'm supportive. And again, it wasn't, I'm kind of saying it very flippantly now, but it wasn't like that. Like I really was like, okay, I really want to support him. Like I really believed in it as well. Even though I didn't want it that way. I didn't want to be the housewife, but I believed in what I was doing. And so as we started to evolve with Quest, it became like, okay, my needs, like, well, Lisa, you started to ship from the living room floor. Now we've actually got a few more orders in. Like, we need to ship from the garage. Like, do you already know it? Do you mind just shipping in the garage? Yeah, of course I will. Because I'm like, I want to support my husband. And then also, our house was on the line. So if Quest failed, we lost our house. And we just bought it. We just bought it literally before we started Quest. So it was like, and my husband came home and he said, look, if we start this new venture, the house is up for collateral. And so I was like,
burn the boats.
Yeah, so he first
no plan B.
Yeah, so it was like, but the plan B was I'll rent, right? Like that was my mentality. I had to ask myself, am I willing to risk my house? And I just saw that what are the worst case scenario? Worst case is I lose the house, but then I rent, and I'm never going to be homeless. Like I knew that I had family, I've got friends, I could sleep on the couch if I had to. So I really assessed what is the worst case scenario of going down this path, and it was I lose my house, that you can overcome that. But the worst case is not trying and then always wondering. Right now, in hindsight, everyone sees Quest and they're like, thank God you chose it. But right now, someone listening at home may have that same question. I have to put my house on the line. I have to take a different job. I have to do this.
Leave my salary.
Leave my salary to take that chance. I don't know if I should. Well, for me, I didn't know if I should either. I was very willing to do it, but knowing that of the downside. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to. If you're not willing to lose your house, don't do it. Right? You should never do it if you're not willing to. But know that in 5 years, if you look back and say, well, I never achieved that, know that it was because you weren't necessarily willing to give everything up. And that's where I came from. Like, what are you willing to give up? And then know that your results are going to be a reflection of it.
Yes.
Now, that doesn't mean you should give up your house. For me, I sacrificed my health, and I'm suffering from it now. I didn't think about that. I didn't realize I was going to necessarily put my health at risk by being so stressed and working so much. And it was accumulation of things, but stress and the intensity that we worked didn't help me at all.
You worked at an intensity reflective of, correct me if I'm wrong, 538,000%?
57,000%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love your man.
We'll come back
you're
next year.
holding me to a high standard, so clearly I'm not doing a good enough job.
I can't remember all the statistics.
Chase told me that until I'm at 570,000.
58,000.
56,000 or something like that.
That statistical growth is insane in 8 years or so.
That was in 3 years in order for us to get to the Inc. 500 nominated, the second fastest growing company. And the funny thing is, the people that beat us went bankrupt the next year.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, it's terrible. But
It's terrible. I heard rumors that they doctored their papers. So look, at the end of the day,
we just get on the list.
Yeah. The funny thing is though, second was good. Second actually gives you a chip on your shoulder. It kind of says, but you weren't number one. Yeah. And so again, I just kind of was like, yeah, it did. It kept the hunger. Yeah. It kept the hunger. I don't even know if I answered your question. I'm so what was your question?
It was about the developing of the process for your why.
So my why basically evolved. So initially it was I wanted to be. My why was don't let your husband down because this is the role that you have promised that you're going to embody in this relationship. Then it became, well, I don't want to lose my house. Then it finally became, I freaking love to learn. And the person I am becoming gets me excited. And so that...
Say that again, please.
The person I'm becoming gets me excited.
I love that. That's me. Yes, and that's my viewers, my listeners, everything we believe it takes to live a life ever forward is it's that hunger, it's that thirst, it's the not accepting that this is the ultimatum, this is the truth, but this is the path for the truth, this is the path for my truth. And you have to stay hungry. Yeah. You have to just be this human sponge of personal development, professional development, working inwards so that you can better work outwards and properly influence and impact your community and your significant others and be all of these things. I love that.
Yeah. Can I actually tell you one quick little story? Actually,
yeah.
I sometimes create scenarios to make sure that I stay hungry.
Interesting.
So, for instance, I just started Women of Impact.
Right.
And we have a whole process on how we introduce new shows or new projects. We say it's got to be a side hustle at first. If we're not convinced or we don't know 100% that it's going to work, it needs to be a side hustle. Then we prove out its project and we prove it out. So with Women of Impact, we had started it. I was doing it kind of in my spare time. And so
you just launched it shortly after our last interview.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So for the months leading up
last
to
spring
that,
or summer
okay. So the months leading up to that, I was just doing it on the side. So it was like we were talking about it on the side, we were planning it on the side. It wasn't part of our daily chores and activities, things that we had to get done for the core of the business. And so I was flying to England, and because we were very conscious, we put a budget together of every single thing that we do. We put a budget together. And there was something that I really wanted to do that I couldn't justify the budget for, but I was flying to England. So my assistant goes to book me first class, and I was like, I can't justify the cost, book me economy. And I want to save the money, and I want to put it towards Women of Impact. Wow. And so I get on the plane, and not only was I in economy, but I because it was the way the ticket had been booked, I was in the middle.
Oh no.
So now 12 hours on a plane.
Oh no.
Where you've got people on either side of you. Now look, at the end of the day, I'm completely blessed to be able to afford a ticket to fly anywhere. So I want to make sure I still appreciate those things. I don't ever take those things for granted. But the truth is I can afford first class. And I chose not to because I wanted to use that money towards something that I was doing on Women of Impact. And I'm sitting there on the plane, in the middle, I've got one guy that was extremely, God bless him, he was extremely old. So he's kind of all over the place, right? He's leaning on me. And then the other guy was snoring, and I was desperate to pee. And in that moment, I'm pissed off, and I'm like, I freaking, I just spent so long building a company, and here I freaking am, right? And I started to get annoyed with myself for making that decision. And then I was like, this is the hunger. And I text Tom, and he was like, baby, this is what's going to make Women of Impact even more worthwhile. And I was like, yes, you're right. Even
at the top of your success request and everything, you were already making sacrifices for the growth, for the hunger of this other project.
And that was like, look, I wanted the hunger. I wanted to stay true because my hunger right now really is impact women, impact the young me. The woman who, the insecure woman who didn't know who she was, what she wanted out of life, or realized she had control. What would I want to have seen and done? And so that is the path that I'm on right now, is creating content and doing things that would have impacted the 16 to 28-year-old Lisa in me, or even 30-year-old, even the Lisa in me last week. Yesterday, right? So making sure that I'm keeping hungry, because I understand human nature and I understand that we all get comfortable. Absolutely. And I don't want that. So so that was just a little story on how to stay hungry, because for what you stand for, right? Moving forward, keeping that hunger going so that you can achieve incredible things is hard to do. It's very hard to do, especially when we've got Netflix and chills these days. Just keep hungry when I can sit there with my remote control.
I love what you're talking about, just, staying hungry and always continuously moving forward, which is, great pun, for us and our platform. But I think that's a great way to look at it. Is I think a lot of us struggle, maybe I'm speaking personally, but I'm sure I've had some people ask, how do you measure success? How it is personal development? How do I know if I'm moving forward? And what you just said, I think, is a great indicator of that. Did I do something today that yesterday, Lisa, yesterday, Chase, yesterday, last week, whatever, would benefit from? Mm-hmm. I think that is such a solid takeaway, and probably one of the best performance indicators, measures of success any of us could really ask ourselves, or hold the standard we could hold ourselves to.
Yeah, I've really learned to do both. Pat myself on the back, because I think
you have to.
You have to. But I didn't at Quest. For so many years, we were in such grind mode. And this is really before, Facebook had only just kind of come out. That's how Quest got so big, was through Facebook.
In 2012, right?
2010 we started the company.
Wow,
we started the company. So, so social media isn't like it is today. So, I can't remember why I even brought that up. I've lost my train of thought.
Doing things now to make your former self happy, or to educate and inform and better yourself, but also patting yourself on the back.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so we weren't really aware of what people are talking about now and mindset and stuff. So back then it was if you wanted to be in business, grind. That is it. Period. There was no other people talking about bad for your health or balance or any of that. So we were grind all the time, day in, day out, and I never stopped to pat ourselves on the back. And it came to a point where I was like, this isn't sustainable. I don't feel good, because I'm always looking forward. I'm never just like, well done, Lisa. Yes, you've done a good job today. And I started to do that. And so when we hit the number 2 in Inc., everyone in the company, the business partners and everyone was like, I can't believe we didn't freaking get to number 1. And I was like, stop. Let's just take a second to say, a few years ago, we were rolling bars with our hands, with a rolling pin and knives. We were making 2,000 bars in 8 hours.
Wow.
Now we make 1.5 million bars a day.
Look at how far we have come.
Right. Now, give ourselves a pat on the back. And at the same time, as soon as you're done patting yourself, turn around and say, I can't believe we didn't get to number 1. Right? Because you need
That's the dichotomy a little bit, I think they're both necessary.
Yeah.
Both necessary. Lisa, I want to be conscious of your time. You've got some important health to get to.
I do.
So thank you so much for opening up your home to me again. It's been such a pleasure connecting with you and your husband, your whole team here. I love the impact you all are making. Women of Impact, Impact Theory. I still eat Quest all the time.
Thank you. You come and watch some shows of ours as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's been amazing. And so I greatly appreciate everything you all have done, just in your content, but also literally opening up your home to me. We've asked you this question before. There's no one else here. I like to think collectively.
Exactly.
So at Everforward, we believe, whether it's through a piece of clothing, working with us in coaching, or listening to a podcast, these are all just forms in which you can live a life Everforward. And definitely, I'll personally speak here that the podcast is everything. The measure of success I have for it, is it everything that I needed when I first found this content, when I first started listening to audiobooks, and when I was really in a dark change in a lot of different ways, personally, professionally. And this platform, this little device right here, this recorder, transformed my life. And so a measure of success for me now is I look at, am I producing the content? Am I having the conversations? Am I being real, vulnerable, and honest in a way that can help that chase? And in the coaching world, we always talk about, your ideal client. And in the social media world, your ideal audience member. And I personally believe that that person is a former version of yourself. And so that's always my indicator. And that's how I feel that I move forward. And we've asked you this question before, but it's been a year almost, and I don't
remember what I said. Which
I know
is
exactly, perfect. So we'll have a separate, part 1, part 2.
Yeah.
What does that mean to you? How does Lisa Bilyeu and everything you do here? The impact you make? How do you live a life ever forward?
How do I live a life ever forward? I just think about, and here's the thing, it actually sounds cheesy as I'm saying it because a lot of people say it, but it's like, I think about what I would think of my life on my deathbed, and I know that a lot of people are saying that now, but it does ring true to me, because I always want to make sure that I'm very authentic in my answer, and I think it's because only yesterday I thought about it, and maybe that's because that's why it's top of mind. But the last few days, so on Friday, my husband, as we were going to bed, we work so much that a lot of time, we won't see each other during the day, and the first time we kind of ever really engage is just as we're climbing into bed. And it's like, how was your day, babe?
Hey, how's your day? Good night.
Exactly, yeah. And on Friday he turned to me and he was like, how was your day? I was like, I had the best day. And it wasn't because anything major happened. It was just I really engaged with my team. We moved the company forward. I laughed a lot. And so I just was like, it's a great day. And yesterday he asked me, yesterday, the day before, he asked me, how was your day? And I was like, eh. And I was like, why? My instinct answered immediately both times. And so I was like, okay, what was it about my day today that was only E? And I was like, I didn't laugh. I didn't really laugh much today. It was very serious meetings. It was dealing with heavy stuff. It was talking about a lot of money. So it was a very heavy day.
Super adulting.
Yeah, super adulting, right? Exactly. And so I was like, laughter. Yeah. Laughter is a really big key indicator to if someone's enjoying their life or not. And I remember once, a long time ago now, but Tom, there were certain people at Quest that were just unhappy, and we didn't realize, and they kind of told us, and it was so sad because we didn't realize someone was unhappy.
Yeah.
And so you're like, how do you in a company of 1,400 employees have a barometer of happiness? It's like, okay, you can questionnaire, you can, give them feeding, Survey Monkey, we changed our policies, we went to unlimited vacation policy, which we now still have at this company, and so we changed things, but it's like, how do you know if people are perceiving that in a good way? And it was like, it's laughter. If you can walk around the office and people are happy, then it means that they're enjoying their job and that everyone's super engaged. And so it really hit me. And so yesterday, in fact, I think it was yesterday, I posted about that and just saying that when I'm on my deathbed, it's what am I really going to think about? It's about how much I laughed.
Yeah.
And so
I love that.
Yeah, that's my kind of answer right
now. I think it's beautiful. Yeah, it's funny. Again, I love how just little bits of awareness pop up all the time. My wife and I were taking our dog out the other day, and it was one of those just long work days, and she was running amok, the dog was running amok, playing with some other dogs. In our apartment building, right next to the dog park, they have a little adult play area, and that's some cornhole bean bags, and let's go throw some bags around for a few minutes. And it was maybe 10 minutes, and I was like, wow, I just feel good. We were laughing, we were joking, talking to people, and I told her, I was like, mate, we should just take a 20-minute play break. Every day, just look at how much better we feel rejuvenated by just taking 15-20 minutes, take the dog out, let her run around, be in the sun, connect with other people, and just play, play, laughter, get away from super adulting, and go back to that childhood mentality a little bit.
It's true, because when you're in business, it's you always think about every minute that you have, right?
Every minute is $1.
Every minute is $1. Yeah. It's so true.
Yeah.
And what I've learned through my experience of my own health and just happiness is that sometimes that 20 minutes will be the best investment you ever made. Because, let me tell you, I want to talk about burnout. Burnout is real. Burnout happened to me in my gut and my health and my digestion, and it slowed me down. It slowed my progression down. It slowed down my what I could bring to the table for the company, because you know, even now it's like I had a doctor's appointment this morning. You know, I've got
I saw that breakfast bowl in the Uber ride.
Yeah, exactly. You watch the content, I appreciate it. But that was the thing. So I have to now do both.
Yeah.
I'm trying to juggle being in business, running my company, following my passion, and making sure that my health is okay.
Yeah.
And so it's really knowing what is actually going to move you forward. And it's kind of like stopping for gas.
Yes.
I freaking hate stopping for gas. It feels like the biggest waste of time. You're just trying to get somewhere.
Especially these days, it's like $4.69 a gallon here.
Right. So now it's expensive, and now you have to take time out of your day to fill your car up, right? And what could you be doing in that 10 minutes? You could be talking to your friends. You could be taking care of your kids, doing something fun with your kids. You could be moving your business forward. But in the end, if you don't do it, your car's going to stall, and now you've got hours of waiting for AAA to come and get your car,
or get an oil change, or rotate the tires, all these preventative maintenance and checks and balances.
You can tell the guy that knows his cars compared to the person that doesn't. I'm like, oil? Sure, you change your mind. Just kidding. But yeah, that's why it's super important for people to make sure, and I love that you're doing that. It's so important.
We try, you know. I try, we try, the whole team tries, and you know, and that's why I love being around other people who try. So it's been amazing reconnecting with you. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a wrap. That's pretty much it.
Thank you so much for having me. I thought you did. You're amazing.
Thank you so much.